Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome back to the TCEC Cup finals in 2021. We're following now some great games of the super event, and yesterday we have started with a brilliant gameplay by Stockfish. Let's see now also what Leela C0 is doing in this event, because this engines will probably play in a super final. The concept of this tournament I've talked about it yesterday is not a league format, it's a bracket system. It's a knockout stage in which Stockfish is the first seeded engine and Leela C0 is the second seeded engine, which means now Stockfish is on the top of the bracket and Leela C0 is in the bottom of the bracket, so they can only meet in an eventual super final. And I think we'll witness again a brutal and cool super final between these two top engines. I think we'll have a super match again between Stockfish and Leela C0. So let's check out now one great game here played by Leela C0. Be prepared, this is really a sick brutal game, because in chess there are basically three moves that you can play. There is an attacking move, there is a reposition in which you maybe try to get a better position for your piece, but it's actually not maybe an attacking move. You're not attacking anything, you're just searching for better squares on the board. And there is of course a defensive move, and actually what you should do in chess is try to search more attacking moves than this other. So you don't want to have maybe so many defensive moves, you don't want to have also many repositions, you want just to have many attacking moves. And the cool part about this game is that Leela C0 will have only two defensive moves in the beginning, and when Leela C0 retreated in move 16, Leela C0 never retreated again. Leela C0 from that point on played almost 50 moves in pure attacking style, which was, I think, really brilliant when you think about it harder. For 50 moves, the Leela C0 just played an attacking move after another. So it was, I think, a brilliant game. Be prepared for those who have trouble maybe also to play against the English opening. I think this is also a perfect video, because Leela C0 will play here with the black pieces against the English opening. So Leela C0's opponent was another engine, Monolith, and it's also, we have to say, an underdog in this super event. This engine Monolith is not such a huge and powerful engine like maybe Leela C0, Dragon and Stockfish, but still it's a respectful engine. Although the different rating this versus almost still 400, but as I said, at least we can see some also brutal attacking games when maybe much higher rated engine is playing against a lower rated engine. So the game then is always really brilliant with some beautiful tactical elements. So let's check out now the game. Here Monolith, as I said, with the white pieces, and Leela C0 with the black pieces. Monolith opened with the move c4, knight to f6, we have knight to c3, d5, and after c takes d5, this was the last pre-arranged move by the organizer. And that's what I like about this cup finals, instead of this TCEC seasons that we see usually. In the TCEC seasons, this normal usual seasons where we have this league format, the engines have to play really many times a dubious and maybe not the best of line. So here in this continuation, I think we can say that this is not a bad line for white, this is not a bad line for black, this is playable for both sides. So that's why I like maybe even more this cup format, because here I think we can witness this normal openings, this healthy openings, and then we can also maybe try to search for new opportunities for both sides in these openings that are very often played in top grandmaster level. So that's why this pre-arranged line, I think, as I said, is playable for both sides. For instance, the engine gives here slightly advantage only for white, like white has usually in the beginning of the game. So after move c takes d5, we have now knight to d5, we have now knight to f3, c5, and now e4. In the beginning, you can maybe say that this could be sort of an inaccuracy, because you're weakening a little bit your square on d3 here, so it's a weak square position. But if you're familiar maybe with the Lasker Pelican Sicilian that Magnus Carlsen is playing many times, a similar position applies, where also black is creating some weaknesses in the position, but at least you're getting this knight out of the center of the board, so at least you get some kind of a compensation. So this move e4 is actually not a mistake. This position again has been played millions and millions of times in chess history. So it's a normal line, but as I said, after move knight to b4, the problem is now the square d3. Here in the continuation, bishop to c4 played by Monolith, and now knight to d3 played by Leela C0. So you don't want to take here, of course, queen to d3, okay, maybe queen to e2 can happen, and then the game is simplified. But here Monolith tried a different idea, which is also very popular in top grandmaster level. It's the move king to e2, attacking the king knight immediately. We have knight to f4, we have now king to f1, and here knight to e6. The problem is now, I think, okay, Black accomplished something. Black accomplished, first of all, this weak square on d3, and even if maybe here white improves the position with the move d3, still it's a weak pawn then on d3, and then also a weak square on d4. At least black has accomplished something, but I think the problem of blacks is the lack of development. So you see now, as I said, black gained something for maneuvering this knight like this, but white has already three pieces out, and although the king is a little bit here endangered on f1, it's not castled, it's not on a natural square, but still I like this compensation that white gains also with three pieces out of the game. And now with the d3 and with some bishop's activity, white would find a fast way how to improve all of the pieces in the game. So as I said, sometimes in chess you create some weaknesses, you have some weaknesses maybe in your camp, but you have also a different compensation. I think still it's an equal game for both sides. And the problem here also for black in this position is, in this continuation, is that you cannot play now anymore the move e6. e6 would be a perfect move, then you play bishop to e7 and castling, and then it's perfectly fine. But of course the knight is standing in the way, so that's why you have to, after move d3, develop the dark square bishop like this, by playing a fianchetto with the move g6 and then bishop to g7. And how to play against fianchettos? One of the best ways is of course to create a flank attack against the fianchetto, so h4, perfectly fine, but here Leela c0 blocks out the potential progress with the move h5. So here bishop to e3, attacking the pawn on c5. The tactical idea of white is here, of course, bishop to e6, and here maybe then afterwards to take bishop to c5. The problem is now there is not even a good way here for black to defend this pawn. If you try b6, then you get, of course, bishop to b5. You can maybe cover with bishop to d7, but here d4 is, I think, improving the position immediately for white. At least we can improve immediately the backward pawn that we have, and now there is not even the weakness anymore on d4. So as I said, it would be, I think, a good continuation here for white after move d4, bishop to d7, bishop to b5, knight to b5, and here after move queen to d7, a4, simply fixing the knight. The problem is now, even if you kick away the knight, knight to c3, let's see, this possible continuation, maybe something like knight to c takes d4, then knight to d4, bishop to g7. I've analyzed this line, but the problem is now, as I said, the activity of white pieces. White had already three pieces out, some pieces were traded, but you see now with knight to d5 castling, you see the b6 is weakness, knight to e6, knight to c7 are opportunities. So as I said, black is simply tactically lost. And even if you try here, maybe instead of this idea as b6, even if you try maybe knight to d4 to improve somehow here your position of the knight by cementing it on d4, it's again not such a good move, because you can maybe try this one, bishop to e3. You see, after the c takes d4, knight to e5, counterattack immediately. Here there is already a checkmate threat on f7, so that's why black would be forced now to play something like e6, but white can continue the pressure with the move queen to f3. So as I said, I wanted to just show you that basically there's not a good way here for black to defend the pawn. So actually it's sort of a gambit line. After move bishop to e3, here in the continuation knight to c6 was played by Leela c0, accepting the challenge, and here Monolith took bishop to e6, and here after bishop to e6 finally bishop to c5. Okay, let's stop and again evaluate the position. Okay, black has lost the pawn, but still black has here the bishop pair on the board, and it's a wild game, it's an open game, it's a dynamic game, and you know how bishops love this kind of structure. So that's why I think it's an equal game for both sides, although of course white is up a whole pawn. The problem is, again, I'm pointing out, you have to move your king somewhere, so you have to improve also your king on f1. And even if you play something like g3, that's I think also the main issue of this position, then you're weakening further your light squares, and you have already given up your light square bishop for a knight. So after move g3, you see you could face many problems on light squares. So that's why, as I said, the engine here, my stockfish engine at home, gives here a 0.0 evaluation for both sides, although as I said, black is down a pawn. So here after move bishop to c5, bishop to g7, knight to g5, attacking the bishop, and as I said, this move bishop to d7 was now the last retreating move by Leela c0. From this point on, Leela c0 is now only playing attacking moves, so it means Leela c0 plays only moves that are moved forward, so not retreatment, no repositions of the minor piece, simply straightforward attacking move. So here after move bishop to d7, as I said, the last move that was defensive here by Leela c0. Rook to c1, rook to c8, improving of course the pieces, queen to b3, and now castling also here by Leela c0, securing the king. So now the fun starts, because here Monolith plays bishop to e3, and it's really unbelievable how sometimes this engine play really bad moves, really BS moves, because bishop to e3 is really unnecessary. Okay, in one particular moment I think black will play the move b6, but then you move the bishop, at least you have forced something. Now maybe it was time simply to play king to g1, maybe even this risky idea to play the move g3, then king to g2, maybe something like f3 and similar stuff. At least try to improve here your structure. But as I said, bishop to e3 is really unnecessary. You don't improve your king's position, you don't fix your pawn structure, you don't improve any piece, you just maneuvered to bishop to e3. And I think that from this point on the game for Monolith went downwards. As I said, my Stockfish engine at home also evaluates this move as a huge mistake, not a mistake, more like an inaccuracy. But I think this move bishop to e3 is really unnecessary. You don't have to play it. As I said, you will play it when you get challenged, but this bishop didn't get challenged. It was simply a retreatment without any compensation. So bad move here by Monolith. After move bishop to e3, now Leela c0 will try really create a dynamic attack. So here first knight to e5, attacking move, attacking the pawn on d3. You have to react. That's the main problem always when you face attacking moves. That's why, as I said, we have three kinds of moves. We have the attacking move, reposition, and the defensive move. So here after move knight to e5, we have attacked the pawn on d3. So it means now that white has to play a defensive move by playing rook to d1. Again, knight to g4. Again, white has to maybe retreat with the bishop. So you see, every move now by Leela c0 is forcing white to do something. So here in the continuation, d4 play by Monolith. Okay, here there are basically two good choices for black. Black can actually take here. Knight to e3 is not a problem. This wasn't played in the game, but knight to e3 is a possibility, because after f takes e3 and e5, black could really weaken the pawn structure further. The problem is now you cannot advance the pawn on d5. d5 leads now into this line, bishop to h6, and in one particular moment we will simply take out this knight. Even if you retreat here to f3, then we can take out this pawn. So as I said, the king is on the f file, f5 will happen, the f file will get opened in one particular moment. So with the bishop pair on the board, with this dynamic possibilities, again I think white is tactically lost. So that's why you see here after move d4 there is not a good way here for black pardon me, for white to continue. As I said, knight to e3 would be a possibility, but Leela c0 had even a better opportunity here. Leela c0 played an aggressive queenside attack with the move b5. The problem is now it's again an attacking move. We're not retreating with any pieces. Pawn move forward is also an attacking move. So here you cannot take, of course. You get simply rook to b8, and then your knight is pinned. Even if you try something like, I don't know, a4, then a6, and you lose the piece. So that's why after move b5, here in the continuation of the game, Monolith tried bishop to f4. Now there is maybe a threat of knight to b5, because rook to b8 cannot happen. But here Leela c0 continued the attack with the move a5. Again, the problem is you cannot play knight to b5, although you cannot counterplay with the move rook to b8. This square is taken, but there is a better idea. Maybe you can pause now the video just for fun. Try to see now the winning move here for black. Try to grab the knight, try to trap the knight. So how would you do that? So it's a simple tactic, but let's also practice a little bit tactical possibilities in this game. I think this was a brilliant game by Leela c0. So after move knight to b5, the best continuation would be simply a4, decoying the queen to this square. After queen to a4, then queen to b6. And again, you don't have any more defensive possibilities, because you cannot move the pawn here to a4, and this knight will be taken. So you cannot do anything else. Even if you retreat here to b4, then again queen to b6 is simply winning the game. So really wild stuff. a5, as I said, here knight to e2, played by Monolith. Monolith Monolith realized its tactical problems with this knight, retreated simply to e2, and again move forward here by Leela c0 a4. We have queen to b4, and now rook to c4 again. As I told you, a new attack move here by Leela. So queen to d2, we have queen to c8, again an attacking move because it's a move forward. Now we have created this battery on the c file. Now there is also the serious threat to play rook to c2. So here queen to d3, we have now b4, and now b3, we have rook to c2, and now f3. And that's now, I think, the beauty of this game. As I said, I promised you no retreating moves here by Leela c0 anymore. After move f3, Leela c0 sacrificed the knight and played simply rook takes a2. After f takes b4, f takes g4, we have now queen to b7. The idea is clear. We want to play bishop to b5. You see, there is really too much pressure here on this long diagonal, on this long right square diagonal. So if you don't react correctly, then you get bishop to b5, and the game is over. So that's why here after move bishop queen to b7, we have now b takes a4, bishop to a4, and here Monolith tried a counterattack to attack the rook, but here Leela c0 accepts the challenge, played simply bishop to d1. We have queen takes a2, and now again a new attacking move. Brilliant tactics by Leela c0. Now this pass pawn on the b file is simply too much to handle here for white. So b3, we have queen to b1, we have now b2. Again Leela c0 is not retreating because you cannot take, of course. It will lead now into this continuation where, of course, black can promote a new queen. So that's why after move b2, we have now king to f2, we have now finally bishop to e2, king to e2, and now rook to a8. Now the serious threat is, of course, to play rook to a1, and the game is simply over. So that's why white is forced to get the queen out of the first rank, has to play now sort of a blockade, has to play rook to b1 in order to prevent this potential promotion on the b file. So that's why here queen to b5, Leela c0 was continued the attack, tried new attacking opportunities. Now what Leela c0 is trying to do is deflect the king as much as possible towards the king's end, and then to try this idea rook to a1 with the potential promotion then on b1. So here king to d2, we have now bishop to d4, taking out the pawn. We have now rook to b1, finally this blockade, and now h takes g4. So here the problem about this move h takes g4 is that the knight doesn't have any more squares. The problem is now this square is taken, this square is taken, of course these two squares are taken. You cannot escape with your knight. So the knight is a little bit weird here. This was now, I think, a brilliant tactic. So actually the knight is out of game. That's the main issue, although white is up a whole piece, but it's a useless knight here on g5. So here after move h takes g4, Monolith tried this idea h5, maybe to liberate somehow the knight in the continuation of the game. Even if you try maybe something like bishop to e3 to maybe release the pressure a little bit by trading off more pieces, because when you face maybe some kind of an attack like this, sometimes a good idea can be, of course, to trade off more pieces and then could go into a simplified line. But actually white cannot play this move bishop to e3 because black can take. Bishop takes e3, king to e3, rook to a3. You see, you cannot really escape. You get simply this idea g3, king to g1. Now again this idea rook to a1 then queen to c8. Maybe you can do some checks, but these are not perpetual checks. You can have your fun for a little bit, but now after king to f7 there are simply no good checks, and we can simply take out the knight, and again the game is over. So really brilliant stuff. As I said, after move h takes g4, here h5 was played by Monolith. Here bishop to f6, attacking the knight. We have queen to d3, now a check. We have king to e2, and now finally bishop to g5, bishop takes g5, queen to g5, and here h takes g6, queen takes g6, queen to d4. But now again a new check. Really every move now is a simple attack here by Leela c0, king to f2, rook to b8, supporting here the pawn. The problem is now you cannot take even the pawn here on b2 because you get the stunner. Maybe again pause the video and try to see now the best continuation. Again, a simple tactic practice here by so try to see now the best continuation, how to win the rook here. That's the main issue, because you cannot really take this pawn on b2. This was really an annoying pawn through the whole game, one of the most annoying pawns that I've seen in my life. So after move rook to b2, this is now a brilliant idea. You have to you can play here the move g3, and the king gets decoyed to the third rank or to the first rank. Wherever you go, maybe king to e1, you get this one, and you see now we have a double attack and you lose the rook. Even if you play with your king towards the third rank, again you get a similar idea with the move queen to a3. So really wild stuff. Even if you take off, of course, the pawn, the same tactic will happen. So after move rook to b8, we have now rook to h1. Try a checkmate, queen to f6, queen takes f6, e takes f6, and this is now the so-called Tarrasch rule. We have now the rook behind the pawn, so that's why white is always forced to play passive with this rook. So here rook to b1, but now rook to b3, king to e1, and now of course we have to use the king in an endgame. The problem is now, even if you take, the king is simply too far away from the actions. The black's king will simply sneak in, will take out both of these pawns, and this would be of course a completely winning endgame then for black. So after move rook to b7, we have now king to d2, we have now f5, e5, we have f4. Now simply marching with the king. Black is winning this endgame for sure, because white is really helpless. Whenever you even move the rook, the problem is will simply promote, and then you have to trade off the rook and it's game over. So king to d2, e5, here e4, simply pushing the pawns, check. Now this move rook to d1, rook takes b2, promotion of the queen, a couple of checks, but no problem here. After move g3 and f takes g3, in this position Monolith resigned. So as I said, brilliant tactics by Leela c0. I really liked this attacking style by Leela c0 in this game. Never retreat, especially with this move f3. And that's actually really one of the most important principles of attacking chess. When you get attacked, most of us, I think, would play something like knight to f6 and okay, hope for the best. But when you get attacked, one of the main ideas for you has to be a counter attack, and that's what I really liked about this game. Here Leela c0 simply took the pawn on a2, and everything was pretty much forced in the end. Leela c0 got a brilliant attack. So I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas in the English opening. If you want to see more games from this event, check out my also previous analyzed game here played by Stockfish, of also very cool game in this event. And if you want to see more brutal attacks like this, check out my commented chess games played by computers, with more games played by Leela c0, Dragon Engine, Stockfish, Alpha Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.